Hey everyone, looks like we are live. This is our second regularly scheduled pastel painting live stream. So this is going to be a weekly thing on Saturdays at 4. Unless I have someplace interesting to go, then I'll readjust the time. But I'm really happy to be able to do these live streams and work in pastel, which I have a lot to share. I've been working in pastels a very long time, a lot longer than most of your pastel painters out there right now. So a lot of experience, a lot of great education from Harvey Dinnerstein in pastels. So this is something that you don't want to miss. And I've been thinking about it a long time. And it's more like continuing the legacy of my late teacher and mentor, Harvey Dinnerstein. So let's see who we have here today. We have Colette all the way from the Atlanta area. Great to see you. We have Astral from the UK. How's it going? Great to see you guys. So I'm so happy we have some great people here already. So basically what I want to do today is start working on her face. I basically shown you how I would work on the the fold, so I don't want to go in there again. Maybe we'll pick that up another time. I think right now probably what would be really cool is working on the hair. Like how would I approach the hair, especially in Photonic Realism? So that's what we're going to go over today, the hair. It's a little too busy right now. When I look at the reference, I can see that it needs to be simplified. Too much information is sometimes a bad thing. So that's cool. We have 3 concurrent viewers, 2 right now, actually 4 right now, which is wonderful. I'm so glad you all are here. And let's jump right into it. Let me check my second camera. Okay, cool. Let's adjust this a little bit so you can see how I'm working. A little bit higher. And then we'll just zoom in up here. So you don't see stuff you don't need to see, right? So that's Michael McClung. How are you? Dan, so Michael all the way from Maryland and Dan all the way from Indiana. Great to see you guys. Michael, I had a hard time finding you today. Did you do your live stream really early? If I did, I'm sorry I missed it. But I did check back around 11:30 and then again at 1, but I didn't see you. So if you did, hopefully I could catch it later, right? And that would be good. I'm going to move my garbage closer because when we work in pastels, we make a lot of mess. So I have my pastel, my little thing right here. Let's go back. There we go. And oh, late. Is it later you're going to have it? Because I'll catch it and we'll let everyone know to catch it right now. So that would be great. So looking forward to that if it's going to be later. Let's see. We don't want our pastel to move. So I'll just put some magnets here, which is great. So what we want to work on now is we want to definitely calm down her hair, right? What was I thinking? So too much color, not the color that I want, and we're going to go ahead and attack the hair. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to bring up my color mixing program. Oh, it was close to 10 a.m. I see. Well, I got to check it out, definitely. So cool, 5 concurrent viewers. So it's more people are coming aboard. That's always great to see. And I'm going to my color mixing program right here, my color picker method, the Gideon color picker method. And what I'm going to do is really try and find the dark color, and it is almost black. Now it's different with Photonic Realism. The black color that you see is more of a pigment base of the molecular structure of the hair, what it absorbs and what it reflects to us. So we're going to go ahead and mix that color for the hair. And let's see. So it's a standard black. And then I'm going to put a little tiny bit of green in her hair. And because my color picking method is telling me there is the slightest amount of green in there. So we'll do that. And now we'll start applying this color to her hair. And let's do that together. So it is a black with some green in it, because you never really want to paint pure black. Black's an important color, but it's a mixing color, right? So keep that in mind, everybody. Now there are some lighter areas, and I'll kind of paint around them. And see, now I'm getting to really to the heart of what's going on with her hair. There are lighter hairs that are showing up here and there. And so sometimes, you know, I'm not getting enough, and I'll actually not paint with this point here, but I'll actually paint with the broad side. So we'll take my, see, it's almost like having a thick brush. There we go. JC, how's it going? Great to see you, my friend, all the way from the Atlanta area. How are you on this Saturday? Are you off from work today? I know sometimes you work Saturdays. Everyone loves Mr. JC. It's always great to see you. And we'll grab some more of this color here. And just unifying that shape of the hair a little bit. Now I'm going to look for the initial black that I used was way too soft. It was a Sennelier. And you'll learn that Senneliers and Schmincke, different brands, they have totally different qualities to them. Some are super soft, some are super hard. JC says, yes, Tim, it's softball day, but oh, you're on a game break. How cool is that? So you're part of a league, sir? I know your daughter plays for her school team. And just take your time, you know, get into like a Zen mode, you know, kind of get into a meditation when you're painting. Just try travel softball for your daughter. Wow, so she's still doing it. That's great. Is she playing for high school now? Astral says, JC, God spoke to him in a dream and asked him why his son wasn't born in the UK. He told him he couldn't find 3 wise men and oh no. That's funny. And notice how now the hair is beginning to get a lot more unified, right? And I'm just going to continue that unification over here. But it's not a pure green, you know. I mean, it's not a pure black. There's green in it. And you see the broad area that I'm working with. And I'm not afraid to go over the work that I did before because that was a long time ago, and now I'm working, right now I'm working now, so I'm not really worried about what I did earlier. And also making sure, so with photonic realism, when things go really dark with light and shade, the energy level is low, and this would be a reddish color. But since it's hair, that's on a molecular level. So the hair is actually what it reflects back to us is not a red color, right? Because it doesn't have to do with weakening wavelengths or anything like that. So when it has to do with the color of an object or local color, that's totally different, and that has to do with the molecular structure of that object as the light hits it. And JC says she was only on the high school team, and next month our tryout, she's thinking about trying flag football. It's a new thing at school. Wow, so she may do that or softball. Okay, so she has a lot of choices. It's always good to have choices. So that's great. She's very athletic. And let's bring this over. And now what I can do is I can take a packing peanut and I can start blending a little bit. Kind of assimilating this dark color in here, making things a little more unified, right? And the packing peanuts really make a big difference. Make sure I get this really held down. There we go. They called her Wheels because she's, oh wow, how cool is that? So she's fast on the base pads. That's great. That's the thing about speed. They say it doesn't go into a slump, you know? Okay, so you see how I was able to simplify that. Now what I can do is, see, the thing with pastels, you can do things you can't do. So I can actually come in with the actual pastel stick if I want. If I want to paint a broad area, you can also come in with the pastel stick. That's just because you can, you know, it's an advantage. You can do what other pastel painters can do, but they can't do what we do. And then that's when this really comes into play. Then we can really soften this up. And then you're really starting to unify that hair. Hair is very simple, but the thing is you have to keep adjusting it as it goes. Oh, JC says painting's looking great. Thank you, sir. And see how just from a few moments ago, how quickly I was able. Now, these are packing peanuts. They're cheap. You throw that away, get yourself another one. Hey, Kelly, how's it going? All the way from the UK. How are you, sir? And grab some of that black from here. Bring it down. And now, as it comes down here, it gets much lighter. It's almost like an orangey color. So let's color pick right over here where it gets kind of, her brown hair kind of shows up. And this is definitely, the DNA is orange, right? But it's a brown. So let's go in. So this is the color we want. And now we figure out how do we make that color, right? Okay, so I think I have how to make that color. So let me go ahead and do that. Very simple. And then we'll go ahead and see if we could make this color together. A little more red, a little more orange. Now let's see, this might be, so right here, it gets this beautiful lighter color. And it does translate, right? You know, you look at it and you might be a little dubious. I don't know if that's going to work, but with this color matching system and color mixing, it really is beautiful. So let's zoom in on where I'm working on her hair. Zoom in there. Then right here, because when I looked at it, I was like, there's no way that's going to match. It just looked too dark. But like, look how that kind of works out. And it's perfect, right? Hey, Bobby, how's it going? Great to see you. And let's see, Bobby's here. Bobby says, JC, I love the flag football program. Very cool. And let's continue. Now watch how this dark color, when I originally went to my color mixing and I was like, there's no way that that's going to be correct. Well, that's the wonderful thing about the Gideon method. It's correct in spite of our eyes. If I zoom out just a little bit, let me see. I'll go up a little bit to show you how this color is really working. And it's a little more, so a lot of times you may have to mix a little more pastel. Then we'll just bring this on over. And look how it's lighter, but it looks part of her hair, right? It's not, and I was saying to my group class last night how we love contrast and we have to fight that, right? We have to fight you know, our propensity to always want contrast. Let me get rid of all these other things here, including me, so we can, let's see, there we go, and get rid of that, get rid of me, get rid of that, and electromagnetic spectrum. Okay, so now we're just seeing the painting. All right, so that's pretty good, but now I could come in with that dark color that we were working with earlier, right? Which is right here. And I could start kind of molding the hair. And then we can zoom out and you can see how the hair is definitely just working in our favor. Then we come back to the lighter color. Bring this down. It's interesting. It's brown hair, right? That's the hair color, but it really isn't because it's really a dark red orange. Oh, Kelly says this is stunning. Thank you, my friend. I really appreciate that. Just kind of bringing that really nice orange red color in there, because without it, it would be way too dark, right? And there wouldn't be any life to it. And let's see. Oh, JC says next game's up, looking great, Tim. Try tuning in later. Take care, my friend. Say hi to the family for me. It's great to see you, JC. And now I could actually zoom in a little bit. Here we go. And you can see I have some work to do with the background, right? And we want to make sure that we're not putting in any higher contrast that we need to. But let's say I want that hair to be lighter. I'm just going to add more of an orange to this blend here. Maybe right here. See how that little bit of energy, right? I want us to start talking about energy as opposed to light, because light is energy. So if it's brighter here, it's because there's more energy. Perhaps it's facing the light a little bit more directly, that kind of thing. Bobby says, Tim, he thinks it looks amazing, almost looks more realistic than Airbrush. Don't know, maybe me. Oh, I appreciate that, sir. Thank you so much. And you see, now I'm kind of shaping the energy as that light is hitting it. And here it's pretty warm, but then due to the molecular structure of the hair, we do have some cool lights. But this is a good opportunity maybe for me to start working on the background a little bit. And so the color, that was before the Gideon method, and I don't think I nailed the color correctly. So I'm going to try and do that now. And let's see. So that's definitely just a plain old gray, right? Really not much color in the background, and that's because it's a studio shot, right? Probably have a nice gray backdrop. or even a white backdrop and have it further away from the model, and with the inverse square law, white becomes gray with the exposure. So that's probably what happened here. That's a lesson for a different time. But let's go ahead and start hitting that gray, right? And I want to make sure I have the right gray. So I'm just going to put this here. This looks pretty close. Yeah, I kind of like this. So there's a lot of different ways that we can work, right? We can work with, you know, the little triangles, and we could work with actually putting pastel on the surface. So this is what I'm going to do now. I'm just going to clean up my act. I'm just going to clean this up really nicely. So I'm not going to do this on the whole area, but I'm just going to go slow. Hey, Thompson, Tim, you're #1 on YouTube. Nobody can teach or perform like you. Just saying. Thomas, I appreciate that so much. That's so encouraging, you know. Thank you so much for that. And Mr. Thomas, where are you from? What area? Always like to know where these wonderful people like yourself are, sir. And thank you so very much for that amazingly encouraging words, sir. I really appreciate that. So now it's just cleaning things up, and thank you, Bobby. I appreciate you. Oh, Southern Mississippi, how great is that? The great state of Mississippi. That's wonderful. And you see, like, anything goes, right? In pastel or anything that I work in. It's always like, you know, if I feel that I can do it better with just a pastel stick, then I'll do it. If it's okay using the triangles, I'll do it. And that's basically it. Oh, Thomas is a fellow Skull Squad. How cool is that? That's great. Kelly says, are they oil pastels? Can't believe the detail you are managing to achieve. Great question, Kelly. So these are soft pastels. And how they differ from oil pastels is the binder, right? So what binds pastel is a dry kind of gum arabic or something like that. And so it basically is just pastel binded, and then it dries in stick form. How it differs from, let's say, oil pastels is that oil pastels is actually done with oil. So the binder, the same pigments, but the binder is oil. So it's definitely different the way it acts. So my teacher and mentor, Harvey Dinnerstein, said, painting in soft pastels is like painting with your fingertips. And I really feel that is the case, you know. I feel it very strongly, which is really wonderful. So now that I have this here, now we can go into packing peanuts, right? So we went to triangles, working with the pastels, into packing peanuts. So this is kind of like cleanup day in the background. I had this like really interesting green color, but that was before my color picker method, so it was inaccurate. But I didn't realize it. And now with my method, because I started this painting a couple of years ago with a student, and you know, I didn't have the color picker. It was more for just using my eye, but this way is much more accurate. Thomas says, Mike is my mentor. He is Air Pro. Mike can make money. Oh yeah, he's a very talented artist. You know, Mike's brush, right? That's a very talented artist, and like you say, he makes money, and that's really great, and inspires so many people that they can make a living doing this stuff, you know, making art, whether it be pastel or oil or airbrush, right? And so you see I'm just cleaning things up here, and we'll work on sharpening that edge right there. And just bringing this down, and then also fixing our edges as well. Let's see if I could get us, okay, so you can see the whole painting. Like right here it gets a little thin with the pastel, so I may come and add more there, but it is going to get darker in the corners, almost like a vignette, right? Yes, he is definitely a hustler, which is great. He has a family to support. And you can see how nice and clean the pastel is starting to look in the background. And you just blow away the excess. Like I said, these are so cheap, you just get another one. And there you are. So like right here, I would probably use one of these little foam guys here, because it's really, you could really mess up with the packing peanut. And then I could grab some of the pastel make sure, oh, this is much lighter. So I think it was this color right here. So I can come in and it's a good way to actually make that edge really a lot harder, which is really important. And just to show you, I'll bring over the other camera. See, here is the gray that I use, and I use the stick mostly, but for backgrounds I'll just come over here like this and then just bring it over to my painting. This way I can work on that edge. So when I start my pastel paintings, like in the beginning, I use airbrush for that. You know, I'll do a detailed line drawing, and then from there I'll do an airbrush and India ink to get the, you know, the detail and the structure, and then from there I'll go over it with pastel. So it's something to think about for you airbrush artists out there, and for you pastel painters out there. Incorporate airbrush. You won't be sorry. It will take your pastel painting to the next level. Look at that, 10 concurrent viewers. So people are responding to the pastel. And so I'm going to see if I can do a little poll and see if there are any people out there who are just pastel painters. And if they are, I'd love to ask the question, did you ever think of incorporating airbrush into your pastels? See how nice and sharp things are getting? Bobby says, Tim, how do you protect the finished product? Just frame it with museum glass? Yes. So what you want to do is definitely go ahead and just mat it and frame it under glass. and your work will stay fresh as the day you painted it for decades, if not hundreds of years. Because remember, pastel doesn't yellow, right? There's no linseed oil in it or anything like that. It's just a colorless binder that holds the pigment together. Remember, pigment's powder. So this is closest to actually pure painting. And then, Mr. Thomas says, Dale the airbrush guy. Oh, cool. Now who's Dale the airbrush guy? And Poco, how you doing, sir? Great to see you. How's everything? So glad you're here. And you're from Massachusetts, am I correct, sir? Just to make sure I got that right. And now I can come back in with the actual pastel stick, right? And kind of incorporate the two. Bring this over. And now I'm getting the, and then remember right here, it was a little bit lighter in application. I can kind of catch it up. Now, when I want to bring in the darker color, I'll use a softer pastel. Different brands are harder and softer, which means there are brands that have like more of that gum arabic and holds it tighter. That would be a hard pastel. A lot of them that have more pigment and less of that binder, that would be a softer pastel, meaning the pastel will actually release from the pastel stick a lot closer, which is really cool. Hey, Mr. Tony, how's it going? Great to see you. Yes, it was amazing having a phone conversation with you, Mr. Tony. Thank you so much for that. Yes, so me and Tony are going to have a class on Monday, 11 a.m. New York City time and 5 p.m. UK time. So that is great. Be the second time I get to work with Mr. Tony. Always a pleasure. Poco says he's okay. Had some internet issues earlier. Was on Michael's live and connection dropped. Oh man. I hate when that happens. So now I can come back to the larger areas, right? And I could use my packing peanut. I think I want to work on her lips today, because that's something I think I have been not kind of neglecting. I may work in the hair a little bit, just to bring it up to speed. But remember, the hair is something you work throughout the whole painting, right? You just work slowly throughout the painting process. You don't want to dedicate a whole day to hair. You dedicate a whole day over the course of the painting, right? But you don't just say, okay, today I'm just going to paint hair. Because, you know, if you look at the old master painters, hair is not the focus, right? That's for sure. And there we go. So you can see how things are shaping up here. And it was a lot messier before. Now things are cleaning up in the background. And the background is, oh, thank you. Bobby says made her pop more. I appreciate that. Love the new background color. Oh, thanks. It's definitely closer to what's in the photo, which is good. Okay, so now we just throw that out. Your hands are going to get dirty, but what's great about working in pastel, or even anything, these things, you know, scentless, unscented baby wipes are the best, because if you were to wash your hands with soap and water, they wouldn't get fully washed, but your sink would look like a disaster. So just with a baby wipe, they're real inexpensive. I use them to clean my palette in oil paints. I use them to clean my hands in Airbrush, right? So they're multifaceted, these things. Will you be going on later today, Mr. Michael? All right, so now we'll go back to our more exact tool here. And then let me right over here show you how I'll go right next to it. Now, the great thing about painting is that there are no rules, right? So what's to stop us from turning it sideways, turning her sideways? It's great to see her from sideways. I'm looking at it all the time and I'm not enjoying the painting, but when I look at it sideways, I don't feel so bad. I feel like much more optimistic now that I'm seeing it from a different angle. Look good from what I saw, Michael. Oh, Michael's always doing some great stuff. What are you working on today, Mr. Michael? And you can see how I can just clean up these edges really nicely. With pastel, it's, you're going to mess up your edges and you're going to come back and forth. So just know that it's the nature of pastel. It's a messy medium, more so, meaning more volatile. But it's so easy to fix things. It's really great in that aspect. Mr. Giovanni, thank you so much for the super chat, my friend, all the way from Texas. How are you, sir? Really enjoyed that funny video on the Russian airbrush that you worked so hard to get and then found out it was made in China. That's hilarious. So check out Spaghetti Miniatures. Is that correct, sir? Did I get that name right on YouTube? And thank you so much, sir, for your friendship and your support. I really appreciate you. It helps out the channel immensely. Oh, yes. If you want to see something really great as to not just for painting miniatures, but if you're into airbrush and you want to, get an idea, honest reviews, comprehensive reviews on airbrushes, he's definitely the person to check out. Very professional the way he does his channel. There we go. So, okay, so, it's not like 100%, but definitely a lot cleaner than what we had before. And oh, I only have one review for now. Oh, the Sotar. Right, that Sotar was just amazing how you did that with all the different scoring and everything. So I think the Sotar did really well. Okay, so now what we're going to do is let's work on the hair again, because I know a lot of yous out there, including myself, always want to know different ways to work in hair, that sort of thing. Oh, the infinity, that's like really big right now. Everyone's talking about it. Dan says she looks so good she just jumps off the page. Thank you, Dan. I appreciate that, my friend. Thank you so much. That's an honor. Now what I'm going to do is I am going to work on the silvery lights of her hair. There's some silvery lights here. And let's see how we're going to handle that. And so I'm going to color pick it, and I'm probably going to be very surprised as to the color. And it's very similar, right? It's this same gray that I think is too dark, but it's going to end up being pretty much on point. So what I want, like right now would be a perfect time for a pastel pencil in that color. But since I moved, I can't find my pastel pencil, so I'm really not sure what's going on with that. But I do have a pastel pencil that is probably around the same ballpark, like right here. So like I said, anything goes with pastel, and with me anything goes with oils and stuff like that. So even though this is a dark color, it really translates, right? So you see how I could come in. Let me zoom so we can see it correctly. We'll zoom, make it lower. There we go. And now we'll zoom into her hair. So the first thing I want to do is I want to establish some of the darks, right, first. So like right here we have a dark pattern. And we'll hit this. And now we can come in with this gray here and kind of start establishing some of the lighter areas. And they're just little hairs here, and we're just kind of setting up texture. And I've been wanting to try the Sotar, but want another Tim's airbrush first. The new 2024 would be nice too. Yes, that's cool. Thomas says she's beautiful. Wonder what she's thinking. Probably, when am I going to finish this painting, right, sir? Thank you, sir. I really appreciate that. And let's zoom out a little bit so we can hit the top of her hair. Right here. Just kind of bring it together a little bit. And then we have some darks here. And then we come in with these light colors here. And it's really like, you know, a back and forth a lot, right? There's a lot going back and forth. Oh, Mr. Tony says, can't wait to find out about the color mixing method. Oh, that's great, definitely. That's going to really be a game changer for a lot of artists out there. Okay, so now we can come in with this lighter color. It's just like introducing some of the hairs here and there. Let me see if I lighten it up just a little bit so we can see. The 1 second rule. So if you're going to paint for a second, you have to look for a second. And that's like one of my Timisms. And it works in every medium: oil, airbrush, pastel. And now I do have a black pastel pencil, and that's going to really help us. And I'm going to have to do it the old-fashioned way, which we're going to do it with my razor blade. And let's see, as soon as I find my knife, I know it's here. Let's see, where is it? It's like camouflaged a lot, right? Let's see here. Maybe it's in my drawer. It shouldn't be. Where did I cut this lately? No, that was yesterday. Can't seem to locate my knife. That's a big problem. Oh, here it is. It's underneath my monitor. So now I'm just going to cut this with this here, right, with my blade. And it's messy. I'm gonna have to sweep up the studio afterwards. And this is a pretty good point for now, right? You can see it's a pretty good point. Mr. Tony says, gotta go, going to watch the Eubank versus Ben fight. Oh, great. That sounds fantastic. And Thomas Thompson says, most don't Zoom because they're scared. That's funny, Thomas. And, Poco says, gotta go catch up with you all. Take care, Poco. Great to see you. Oh, so that's cool. So very cool. So take care, guys. Thanks for hanging with me. So now that I have the black, I can kind of start going back and forth, right? See how I could bring in some of these darker aspects. Just like that. And then come back in with the lighter color. Kind of like a shorthand, right? I'm not trying to paint this, you know, like every little hair. I'm just kind of indicating. Now right in here, we have these little tiny hairs that show up on the scalp. We're just going to kind of hit that here. And I may come in with, you know, maybe a crow quill and some ink to really get the real thin hairs. But the most important thing when you're painting hairs like this in airbrush, in oil, the lighter the application, the lighter the pressure, the lighter your mark's going to be. And then we're just going to hit these little shapes of the hair, and it looks like nothing's happening, but it really is. And Zoom classes are good. Yes, definitely. Bobby says, Thomas, I would rather do in person, but after taking Tim's classes, it's not bad to do Zoom. Thomas says, Zoom is on paint. Thomas meant Zoom on paintings. Yes, so that's cool. And thank you for that, Bobby, for saying that about my Zoom classes. But yeah, a lot of people are afraid to zoom in on their work. And that's why a lot of people work so big, because when they photograph it, a lot of the mistakes go away. I work small, so, you know. And so it's nice when you can, you know, continue going back and forth. Here's a good way for me to kind of make that edge a little harder right there, right? There's little opportunities here and there to go back and forth. Here again, so as you're working, you're going to find opportunities to clean this up. I might have done this with my finger, but I'll just clean that up. And then here we have some opportunities. What's really cool, what I usually do in airbrush is I'll use Blackbeard wheat and I'll spray it. But sometimes I'll actually do that when it comes to working with pastel. I'll use Blackbeard wheat and I'll just shoot some of my Airbrush India inks over it, and it works out pretty well. And then there's this kind of cool gray over here. So I'm going to take some cool gray, kind of put that here. And then I'll assimilate that with the packing peanut. There's more energy here because it's closer to the light. And like right over here, we have a nice cool area. So I'm just gonna kind of indicate this and then kind of assimilate this with the packing peanut and kind of create a nice sense of energy dissipation and growth here and there, depending on how close things are. Now on this side, we have a little bit, maybe right here, we have a light. And we can just kind of assimilate that. Now these aren't arbitrary. I'm really paying attention. Astral says, gotta scoot, enjoy the rest of the live. Take care, Mr. Astral, always a pleasure. Steve and Scott are true masters. That is so true. Those guys are amazing. I learn so much every time I watch their live stream, Thomas. Definitely. So you see how working in the hair is not just, you know, I'm just going to stay in one area. It's more like, okay, there's a lot going on and I couldn't possibly do it in one sitting or even one part of a painting. I have to continue, you know, kind of going back and forth. As the painting progresses, so does the hair, right? And that's something. Now here's an interesting area. Right here you can see some of the hair, some of the background in between the hair. So there's two ways I can go. I can go right in with the pastel stick, or I can just use one of my triangles. And what I'm going to do is just kind of see how I can pull up and you start to see that background, you know. And Bobby says, yes sir, they are. Only live about an hour from Master Scott, but Tim is an hour from Scott, but his time is very expensive. We're supposed to try to do something this summer, hopefully to do a little study under him. That would be great. That would be a great opportunity, definitely. So see how I can actually show some of the hair coming through here. So it's not, so it's, you show a lot of the complexity, but in a simple way. Genius is to take the complex and make it simple. I think Degas said that. Edgar Degas, famous pastel painter. Okay, so that's where we are right now. That's it for the hair. I'm not going to go too crazy with the hair. We'll come back to it. But what I would like to do is work on her lips. That's going to be fun. So let's make this happen. And what I'm going to do is I am going to work on the upper lip and then a little bit of the lower lip. So let's see how we're going to do this. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go into my color picker system and I'm just going to look at where it is a little bit darker, you know, a little bit of a darker color. And we'll be surprised just how dark color that is, but it will work. And let's see, so we have our color. And now let's get the DNA. It's a little bit of a red-orange, right? There's a little bit of orange in there. And now let's see, how do we actually find that color? Okay, so I definitely see how that's going to happen. So let's make it happen. Ah, thanks. Thomas says that our lips look sweet to him now. I appreciate that. I think that's what you are referring to. And if that is so, thank you so much. And we just want to kind of mix that color and also try and get a little more detail, right? Let's see if we can get a little bit more detail here. It's a pretty deep red, right? It's actually nice and deep, this red color. And I think that's it. And let's go ahead and see if we can, start to mold it. The lips are three-dimensional, so we want to try and get those three-dimensional qualities of her lips here. So right here. Actually, if I want to use it, because here I got to contort my hand, so what I'll do is I'll take some scissors and I'll cut this into a point. It's almost like working with a point zero airbrush or point zero paintbrush. And now I can really get in there. So let's see. And one of the things you got to watch out for is when you make dark, you darken a red, sometimes it could come out as a purple. So you want to make sure that that doesn't happen. It's just a little caveat, you know. Bobby says his daughter came in to ask a question and said this painting was on fire. Oh, thank you. Thank her for that. I appreciate it. So now we want to try and start to make these lips turn and have some texture. And it's not easy, but we're going to stick with it. And do I have a red pastel pencil? Let's see. Sometimes I do. But it's kind of like a deep red, so I can't just have an arbitrary red. I gotta look for a nice deep red. Let me go ahead over here and see if I can grab a nice deep red here. I'm gonna come over here. Looking through the drawers. So I think I have maybe one of these new pastels. I might use that for my deep red and kind of, just go over it. Let's see how this goes. It's more of a purple, but maybe it will translate. Let's see. Yes, I think it's doing what I wanted to do. So we're just following the modulations of the color, and knowing that, it's not going to happen 1, 2, 3. And now in between that, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a clean one of these and see if I can just start blending a little bit, or assimilating rather than the word blend. And now I see that there are some lines, right? There are some little lines in her lips. And I might forsake doing them just for not creating too much detail. It's a small painting, but let's see if I can get that kind of bluish kind of red in the lips here. It's like a salmon color, right? And oh, looks like it's a very easy color to try and mix. Okay, so it's a salmon color. So I think I have the mixture. So let's go ahead and try and get that salmon color. Or sometimes if you do have the pastel, it's okay to use that pastel, right? But you would really have to nail that pastel color. And I don't have that pastel color, so I'm going to mix it. So I'm going to get, and it's like a pure red, right? So it's definitely a pure red. And the gray is almost like a gray number 5, and then it has some purple in it. So we're going to go ahead and mix this together, and we'll see how this goes. What do we got to lose? So keep looking at the color that you need. Look at that color. And let's see if this is the color. It seems like it is. Maybe it could be a little bit lighter. So not a bad thing. So we're just going to make it a little bit lighter. Yes. So we are getting the kind of dimension that we want here. Right along here. And you can see now there's a little more going on than before. Which is good. Kelly says, are you using sponges to apply the pastel? Yes, so here's what they are. I have one that is uncut up. Let me see if I can get that for you to show. It's what kids use to put on their doorknob, and they will put like, do not enter, no parents allowed, so to speak. So it would be something like this. Let me zoom out here. These are like, you get them at like hobby shops. They're door hangers, foam. It needs to be a foam door hanger. And I cut these up and then I apply them, which is really good. It works really well. And so I like doing it that way. And so I cut them into corners and then I apply it. And it works really well. This is more acting like a paintbrush. If I want to rub the color in, I will do that more so in the beginning stages. I'll use foam core, which is different. Oh, you're welcome, Kelly, and thank you. Yes, that's a technique I've been using for the past 20 years, I think. Maybe even longer. Okay, so we're coming in with this beautiful kind of purple color, but it's not purple. It's a red base color. And now I can use a clean one of these, and I can maybe assimilate these colors a little bit here. Always look at what you're doing. It's so important. And then in the corner of her lips, like let's zoom in on her lip here. On the corner, it's dark. It's a dark color. And see how I have it going up? That's actually incorrect. So I'm going to fix that. And it's going to be a dark red. And here I may try to use a piece of Caput Mortem, which is one of my favorite colors in oil when I oil paint. And then this kind of cuts straight across. And then stops rather abruptly right here. There we go. And then picks up here, but it's blended, right? So it's kind of soft. So what I'll do is I'll just kind of tap this. I won't apply it. So working in pastel since I was 19 years old under the tutelage of Harvey Dinnerstein, one of the best pastel painters that ever lived, it's safe to say, and then working for decades after that, it's safe to say that I know how to manipulate pastel, you know, and it's just learning how to manipulate it. You know, it's just as you work with something more and more, you just learn how to make it do stuff. And that's basically what I'm sharing with you all, is just how I can make pastel do stuff. And then here, I'll just kind of clean that up there. And then we can come in with a darker red and kind of pull this up. And then remember that initial red we had, that, you know, reddish purple color. And I would say it's kind of makes an appearance right here. And it gets even lighter. So now my thing is to use that same kind of purplish color and kind of make it lighter. And that's not lighter. So when you see that, just get another one that's clean. And we'll apply a lighter gray to this. A lighter red, sorry. Then bring this down. And then over. And then we just kind of work these colors of light and dark together right here on the top. So here's where you need like a smaller area to apply it. And you just kind of cut this like so. Now I have a nice point. and now I can use that point. Whoa, there was some dark that got on there. Not sure how that happened. When that happens, don't panic. That's the worst thing that could happen. And we're just going to look for a kneaded eraser. And I should have one here. Let's see. Here we go. So we have a kneaded eraser, and we just take a piece of this. And you see that dark, and we're like, oh no, that's bad, right? But don't worry, just like in airbrush or in oil, or there's always a way to fix it. The more you learn about and the more you have mistakes, the more you know how to fix it. So notice that all I do is just tap it, right? With the piece of a kneaded eraser. And now it's gone. Now if I got panicky and then decided that I was gonna, blend that in, that's when things would get bad, because that color would be forever, it would be forever contaminated. So you want to be careful. And now I have this, and maybe I can shape this dark of her mouth open here. That would be cool. And just tap off that dark. And so for some reason there was a dark on here, so I'm not sure how that happened, but it does happen. So it could have been on my palette. So I'm just going to cut this again, make sure that I have this kind of fresh point. And yes, so there was a dark pastel right next to it, and I inadvertently touched it. And we're just going to keep going back and forth, right? So here we have this dark, and I want a point, so I'm just going to cut it like that. Now I have that point. And now I can keep moving back and forth until the mouth becomes, what I want it to be. Now it's dark here on the bottom. It gets darker. Now there are wrinkles in her lip, but I wouldn't possibly try and do that right now with this, because I wouldn't get the detail that I need. So I'm going to wait until I get like a pastel pencil. And then there's some intermittent darks over here that I can put in there. And again, I make a mistake. I can always come in with a kneaded eraser and kind of put that here. There's some beautiful darks on the edge of her lips. Whether that's lipstick, I'm not sure. And I want kind of a nice chiseled edge, so I could use this edge right here for that. And if it's too thick, again, you just take a pastel pencil, a kneaded eraser, and you just tap it, and you take away things you don't want. And also you can see that there are areas where the lipstick is kind of not creating that harsh line. So you see where the edge between the lips and the face get a little bit more soft edged. And like right here, I can see that it's a little dark. I can just tap that pastel and kind of assimilate it with the rest of the lip. And then we can, you know, keep working back and forth, right? So if I see it's like more red orange over here, I can just kind of tap that. Maybe right here is a little bit of a red orange. We can just put that there. And there we go. So now we have a lighter lip color, right? We can do it two ways. We can do it like Johannes Vermeer, or we can do it like a photonic photorealist, right? So that's up to us, you know, what kind of style we want. So right now I'm going to do it in a style of, you know, like a Vermeer. How would he handle those lips, right? So I'm going to come over here, and I'm going to do a pretty bright light here. I'm just going to kind of simplify that light as it's hitting that lip directly. So now we have it a little bit darker right inside the center of her lip. And let's see if we can create some volume. And then come back in with that light color and go back and forth. And you know, I'm not done, you know, this is just like the first indication of it. And then we take a fresh packing peanut, and now we can assimilate things. So now when we zoom out, we can definitely see that the lips are a little bit more complex. And a little bit more of emotion to it. And they're anatomically correct. So things get more, how do you say, clear, more clear as we go further. Now, I could actually take it even another level, and if I want, I could add some highlights here, just to give it a little bit more attention to her lips. And then I can just take some packing peanuts and I can tap it, keep it there, but I could just lower its intensity, right? So you have so much at your disposal to make things kind of come to life. Now here's one thing that I want to show you. There's really no black in the form. There's dark red, right? So what I'll do is I'll use red, or if I have a pastel that basically is doing that for me, like the Caput Mortem, I would use that. And so this is a piece of Caput Mortem. So I'm going over the black with the Caput Mortem. And what that is doing, it's making it a lot more, how do you say, real to life, because there is no black. The only black you'll see is in a black hole. But black's an important color. I'm not one of those artists who will say, don't use black, blah, blah, blah. I'm not one of those artists, right? Gonna add a little bit of this. There we go. That gives, see how the nostrils get darker and darker as it goes up into her head? So that actually created a lot more believability. And then it going into regular red actually helps it even further. So just that little bit of that caput mortem made a big difference in her lips there. And of course, this is not a one-time fits-all kind of thing. It's not like I'm gonna do this and then that's it. No, I'm gonna keep painting and keep refining as I go, right? That's the important thing. Refine as you go. And okay, so now that we worked on her lips, and what else? We worked on her hair. And do I have a white pastel pencil? That I think I do. But I can refine, so some of the hairs on her scalp bother me, right? And if it bothers you, go ahead and take care of it right away, right? So you see how it's so fat? There's like a fat hair right there. So I'm just going to take my kneaded eraser. Maybe I'll even use my mono, and I'll thin it out. Ooh, be careful you don't get your hand on your pastels like I just did. There we go. So what we're doing is just making the hair on that scalp of hers a little bit more believable. There we go. And of course, still a work in progress, right? I'm coming back to this. But then I can come in with a white pastel pencil, which is right here. And I can start hitting just indications of some lighter areas kind of showing through. Now that's way too bright, but I can tap it with the pastel, with the kneaded eraser, right? And kind of calm that down. And then you see that, okay, I'm feeling a little bit better about that scalp. And then we can definitely lighten this area as it comes from the scalp. All right, so now we can kind of look at different areas. So I'm looking at the cast shadow of her hair onto her face here, and that's something that we can definitely address. And so it's a nice dark hair here, and let's see if we could make sure that's occurring correctly. The dark of her hair kind of comes up here like that. All these little changes, and I do mean little changes, are going to make her look much more realistic. Right now she's still in that in-between stage, but she's going to look much more realistic as time goes on. Then right here is very interesting. We have a hair that's casting a shadow. And what's beautiful about cast shadows is that they will do something for you. They will actually describe the form. They'll actually go against the form. Kelly says it's getting late there. Needs to go. Great feed. Thanks, Tim. Take care, Mr. Kelly. Always a pleasure. Thanks so much for stopping by, my friend. So what I'm going to do is I want to hit that, but not black, right? Because there is no black on the face. There is black mixtures, but no black. So now, see how this cast shadow actually follows along the retroabicularis oculi fat pad here. And it's so great because it does us a favor and helps us to describe the form and to make her more believable. And I love that. I love when nature helps us paint. So now we have this dark, dark, dark red, and then it goes to a red shift, and now it's going to go clockwise because it's going towards the light as opposed to counterclockwise. Oh, good night, Kelly. Have a good one. And oh, Michael's saying that he's working on a GTO car. Is that what you're doing right now, sir? Will you be going on again tonight? I'm just going to tap in some of this caput mortem here. So now we have this, and then there's an orange shift, right? Because it's getting more energetic this way. So, but light doesn't work that way. So it starts out light, the highlight, which is a yellowy white, and then it goes to yellow, then it goes to yellow orange, then red orange, and then red, and then dark red. So right now we have the dark red, and we're going to do a little red shift, which is always fun. Right here we have this little red shift. So we've been doing this live stream for an hour and a half. Hopefully we're having fun. Hopefully it's enjoyable and you all are learning. Now you might say to yourself, I'm not a pastel painter. What do I have to learn from this? You have a lot to learn from this because we're working on color. We're working on photonic realism, right? And those are things that are really important. See how it's so red? But we're going to come in and make that orange before we hit to the yellow. I'm going to use the bathroom real quick. I'll be right back. And please don't go away. We have 11 people here. Thank you so much. Don't go away. I'll be right back. We are back, and so we want to work on this orange shift, right? Well, because it's yellow, and yellow goes to yellow-orange, to orange, to red-orange. That's the electromagnetic spectrum, and that's really important to photonic realism. So, now I'm going to come in with a little bit of orange. Let's see. Right? A little bit of orange. A little bit of yellow-orange. And then we'll hit this local color. And that's what happens in flesh. Now I'm going to get a packing peanut, and we're going to blend that together. And we're just going to assimilate this. Now it's a cast shadow, so things are going to happen a lot quicker than a form shadow, right? So let me go ahead and come over here and kind of bring this flesh tone into that cast shadow a little bit more. But that's photonic realism. That's going along with the nature of light itself. Let's kind of bring this over. So this is great for you pastel painters out there. I mean, it's really going to help you how you see the light. Now right here, which is really fascinating, is I put contrast here, but it kind of, that cast shadow kind of gets so weak, almost disappears totally. Right here. See how that kind of disappears? Now I do see something that's puzzling here. This hair comes straight down, and what I'm doing in here is I kind of have it, her zygomatic bone coming out a little bit, but that's not the case, right? So just going to bring this down straighter. And kind of makes her a little bit more realistic, I think, because it kind of made her a little cartoon-like. So that's good. I'm glad that I seen this mistake. Michael says, Tim, I fell asleep Wednesday night on your live stream, and Thursday I was very tired at work. They are getting the best of me out there before I retire. Oh, I always appreciate when you can make it, sir. So please don't, if you're too tired, you can always see it on record. So, but I'm always excited when you are there. So thank you for that, sir. But definitely, getting your rest is definitely most important to me. So here's the schedule out there. Uh, so it's pretty cool. So Wednesday nights, 9:30 p.m. New York time. It's going to be an Airbrush live stream for 2 hours. Thursday at 1 p.m. New York time is going to be an oil painting live stream. And then Saturday, every Saturday, of course, at 4 o'clock New York time is a pastel live stream. So it's great because I'm able to share all the different mediums that I am, that I feel I have mastered, and not just sticking with airbrush. Because I feel, why do I use different mediums? Why don't I just use one? Because one medium's not enough to fully express yourself as an artist, I feel. And I love the way that she's looking now that I came in here. Now this kind of comes in a little bit, right? This kind of comes in at an angle, which I find fascinating. And where's that black pastel pencil? See how that comes in at an angle. So that has a little more life to it, I feel. Now it is darker over here, right? So this area is darker. So I'm going to come in and get a brand new, because this is black, so I'm just going to cut this, right? So I have a brand new applicator. And I want to come in with that Caput Mortem color. And it has a little bit of red into it. And I'll grab it. And let's zoom in so you all can see what I'm doing. Michael says he loves watching my portrait work, especially like this one here is so fantastic, and learn so much just by watching. Thank you, my friend. I learn a lot from yours as well. And I know if anyone checks out your live streams, they're going to learn a lot. You taught me a lot about different clears and everything, and that was fantastic. Just going to bring this down. It's kind of a lost and found, in a sense, the way that this reflected light kind of comes up and then just sort of disappears. And then it kind of, you can see little traces of it right here. I'm just going to tap it. I really appreciate that, Mike. Definitely. So I like the amount of concurrent viewers. I think I'm getting a lot of anonymous pastel painters out there. But please, if you're enjoying this, and you don't know out there, you don't have to, say anything during the live stream. It's okay to be anonymous. But if you can, subscribe for me, because I want to start getting some of the subscribers from the pastel world. And we have that orange shift there, right? So we definitely have to hit that orange shift. Now we definitely need the applicator for this. Why pastels, right? So why would you want to do pastels? And what Harvey said is that they can be quick color studies. Nothing is faster when working in color than with pastels. So you can do very quick color studies for oil paintings, you know, work out the color scheme and stuff like that. But what Harvey also said is that you could work in pastels as a fully realized painting. And to me, that's super exciting, right? That you can also use them as color studies, but you can also use it as a fully realized painting. And to me, that is like really incredible. So there's a shadow on the lower eyelid, and that's on the orange shift. So Photonic Realism is helping me make these paintings. And then right here we have an orange shift over here, coming over. So right here, this is orange because of the energy dissipation from yellow to orange. See, this is where the yellow is at the top of her maxilla, and then as it goes, a face plane goes down a little bit with the maxilla and also with the malar fat pad. It turns away from the light just a little bit, and that's where the orange shift goes. Right here I'm a little bit high in chroma, little high saturation, so I'm going to calm that down soon. So you have three things to worry about when painting. The hue, what color is it, and then you have the saturation. How much is it straight out of the tube, or how much is it in gray? And it's right in between, and that's where you find your saturation. And then value, how dark a light it is. Is there a video from the start of this painting? You know, I don't think so, my friend, because I began this painting with my student and friend, ex-student. He's not my student now. He's doing his own thing, but Juan Carlos in the UK. So I don't think, I may have a still of where it is, you know, in the beginning. I'll see if I can grab that, and maybe I'll put that on Facebook for us. So great question. Hopefully I do. And over here it's a little bit of an orange shift. So when I talk about shifts in color, it definitely has to do with the electromagnetic spectrum, right? And here it is, right? So this is our electromagnetic spectrum. And as you can see, light, as it gets weaker and it goes more towards shadow, it goes from yellow to orange to red and black to almost black. So, but photons never die, so it will go to black, almost black, but it'll still be something there, right? So always know that's how light is. Light would be white as it comes from the sun or a color-corrected bulb, but then it would be on the violet side, then the blue side, and then the green, and then the yellow. So this is all light as it loses energy. It goes from white to purple, white to violet, all the way to red. So that's interesting. And Bobby says it would be interesting to see a pastel from start to finish and how you approach it. On my On my YouTube channel, there is one from start to finish. I think I did that 2 years ago, a year and a half ago actually, and it's from 2023. And definitely check that out. Either 2023 or 2022, where actually it is like around Christmas of 2022, and that is really, really beautiful. In the sense of how I go from those videos from a line drawing to India ink underpainting to doing the first color. So definitely check that out. I think that would help you, definitely, sir, just to give you an idea of how I begin. So you can see how I go from the yellowish local color to the orange, right? And that has to do with the electromagnetic spectrum, the visible spectrum that we see. And again, so you can predict the color using photonic realism. So like right here, we can definitely shift to orange here. And it will work, right? It will work absolutely perfectly because it hasn't lost enough energy to go to red, but it is going to orange. And then it goes to red, which is really wild. But down here, it's much more gray. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of kill the chroma, and I'm not going to do that. I don't believe in using complementary colors. So I'm just going to kill the chroma with a little bit of red. Chroma saturation. Tomato, tomato. But see, I'm just going to gray down this so it's not too colorful. Same thing here. This gray, this orange shift is a little overzealous. So I'll pick a gray that's similar to it and I'll just glaze over it, and it'll keep the value and the hue, but it'll just lower the saturation. Like I said, I've been using pastels for so long that I know how to manipulate it, And that's how it is, if you work on a medium for so long, you just know how to twist it and turn it to do your will. And Michael says, do you start the painting with oil or with the airbrush with Createx paint? So with pastel, I always start with an underpainting using my Airbrush India inks, right? And so I have a really nice line drawing. Then from there, I go ahead and do a very light underpainting, meaning the values are much lighter than what we're going over with pastel. And then once I have that black and white underpainting established, then I start going over my initial colors with pastel, and then I just continue working it until I get to where I want it to be, right? So today it looks like we didn't do much, but we did. We worked on her hair. We can actually come in and remember what I always say. I always make eyebrows a lot smaller, so I gotta make sure that I'm giving her the eyebrows that she was born with. I like deep eyebrows on a woman. I think it's beautiful. And see how I'm coming in and deepening those eyebrows a little bit. There we go. Now I don't use Createx paint. Sometimes if I feel like it, I may do a color wash if I'm working on wood. So I'll come in with Createx paint. But that would be like on a whim. It's not really part of my modus operandi, how I would attack it. So I'm going to come in and do that kind of orange shift right there. And then right here, we'll bring some orange. So color is not mysterious at all. It is knowing how it reacts. You know, what's your local color? Then from there, how is the light reacting? What is the nature of light as it interacts with form? Right? There's a little bit of pink from the local color, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to add some pink here, because it goes outside the normal wavelength progression, but that's only because of the local color. The local color is the wild card, right? You know, what is the molecular structure of the color of the object and what it reflects to our eyes. That's different. It kind of is different than the wavelength progression. It's almost like that's what you begin with, right? With the local color. So with the local color, I'm going to come in with this pink here and just kind of add it to everything. Just a little bit here, a little bit there. So we're at 5:58, and I always enjoy doing these live streams with you all. So this is local color. So local color is different because that's what you begin with when you are doing photonic realism. And now I'm just going to assimilate it with the packing peanuts. So there's a lot to unpack with working in pastel with me. I'm not afraid to use all different techniques that every airbrush art, every pastel painter uses. I'll use everything, but I'll also use stuff that other pastel painters don't know how to do. A lot of this information comes from being an oil painter, a pastel painter, an airbrush artist, a pencil artist, right? So that's why you want to use different mediums. That's going to give you that edge. Now you see how bringing in the pink from the local color really creates a much more realistic and dynamic skin tone. And each day that I work on this, it seems like I'm not doing much, but we're getting closer and closer to this like really profound realism. So I'm just going to wait until I get that pink assimilated, which is the local color, which is underneath the photonic realism. Now, fantastic. Now, why do I work this way? Because I don't want people to say, hey, that's a pastel painting. I want you to think it's an airbrush painting. Same thing with airbrush painting. I don't want you to think it's an airbrush painting. I want you to think it's an oil painting. I don't want my work to be described by the medium. My medium is described by how I work. So that's why, you know, I want all my paintings to have a similar look regardless of the medium. And Michael says, so it's strictly your Indian ink and pastel. Definitely, definitely. So guys, we hit 6 o'clock. Thank you so much for hanging out. Thank you so much for the super chat, Mr. Giovanni. Thank you, everybody. I really appreciate yous. And I hope to see you soon. I do have classes from 10 to 12 tomorrow, but if your live streams earlier or later, I will check that out, Mike. Take care, you guys. Oh, her top is awesome. Thank you, sir. I got to come in and bring in this. This is still the color of the paper, but I appreciate that. Take care, guys. You're all amazing.